Good morning, you guys. We are back again with Kickin Cancer Cares on KSLM Radio, 104.3 FM and 1220 AM. Our sponsor for this second half is Venti's Restaurant, and they're absolutely amazing. They've got all these amazing plant-based, vegan options, and they also have regular meat options as well. I just took, my nephew had last week conferences were in, and so we went to his conferences on Thursday, and we went to Venti's and got lunch because it was in that area, and we did the grilled cheese tomato soup and grilled cheese,
such a good combination,
and the mac and cheese, and it was just delicious. And Armando was there, said hello to him. He's the cook, and he's awesome. So huge shout out to Venti's. They're amazing as well.
That is not normal mac and cheese. That is like gourmet mac and cheese. It's so good.
My nephew was like, "This is mac and cheese," and it was like, "It is. Take a bite."
That is not Kraft out of a box mac and cheese.
He was like, "This is mac and cheese." He's all dipping his bread in it. He couldn't get enough.
Oh, it is so good.
It is good.
So good. So many of the listeners know that we pre-record.
Yes.
And I was going to bring you a very interesting quote. I got some advice years ago, and I'm glad I did this. They call it a 3-year journal.
Okay.
So I take a binder and I divide it into thirds, and it's a really quick snapshot of what happened on that day. Mm-hmm. Well, that's interesting to look back last year. What did I do last year on this day? Right. Well, now I can look back. What did I do on this day 7 years ago?
Yes.
Because I have a lot of years, you know.
Yes.
I literally started the year I started Kickin Cancer. Bit fortuitous.
Yeah.
But today is March the 17th.
Yes, it is.
And on March the 17th, 2018, 7 years ago, this was what I wrote in my journal. Okay. At the time, I was working at Costco, and we had just had like a employee meeting. And I said, good meeting with Costco, but I know more than ever my passion is with Kickin Cancer. I'm excited for May 17th, which was an event that was coming up, and the lives that we can help.
I love that.
May 17th was the first Warrior Dash.
Some would call that manifestation.
I think I manifest that.
Yes.
So on March the 17th, 7 years ago, I knew that my passion, and there wasn't even cancer back then.
Yeah.
Right? It was just me trying to help Brenda out.
You had a passion for helping others. You're a giver.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. You are a giver, and acts of service is, I'm assuming, one of your main love languages.
I like to give the acts, right?
Yes, that's mine too. Acts of service is my love language. And so that's totally you. And so, yes, that is your passion, is people and helping, and to each one teach one. That's totally you. And so I love that you manifest that. That's really cool.
Well, and I manifested that I wanted to do that. It took an awful long time of doing this for free.
Yeah.
Before I finally realized that there is monetary value to what I do.
Very much so.
Right? Mm-hmm. But I also had to get to a point where someone else believed that they would contribute, and we could make this thing happen.
Right. Yes.
But I persevered through some pretty tough times with Kickin Cancer, making no money at all.
Yeah.
Because how can I help one more person, right? Mm-hmm. But I also felt like there was just a really big need for us to educate the public on what Brenda was doing, but how to not get cancer.
Yeah.
Well, this is what I'm really thrilled about what we've done. This show that we're doing is 3 years old, and it goes to podcasts. So I went back and looked at last week's podcast.
Yeah.
Which is different than YouTube.
Yes.
This is just someone going to their podcast server and hearing exactly the same thing that we do on Saturday. Mm-hmm. Okay. So last week on Monday, 11 downloads.
Okay.
Tuesday was 4 downloads. Wednesday was 14 downloads.
Oh, wow.
Thursday was 4 more downloads. Mm-hmm. And Saturday was 9 more downloads. We had 42 downloads just last week alone.
Awesome. Yeah.
And that's just someone going to their podcast, turn it on as they're driving.
Yep. Couldn't catch it live, so we'll listen to it recorded. Yeah.
And that's why I'm so glad that you and Jackie believed in this, broadcast to podcast idea.
Yeah.
Because we're now at almost 4,000 downloads.
That's awesome. That's super cool.
And of course, now with adding the YouTube factor into it, it's just so much bigger than that. Mm-hmm. But last week I did give you the predictions for this year.
Oh, yes.
Right?
I know the numbers. It's just like
you went from like high, happy, going good to remember last week and those terrible numbers.
Yeah.
Why you gotta hit me with that?
Well, I'm going to hit you with some more, but I drilled in a little deeper this time.
Okay.
So these are the predictions for Oregon specifically.
Okay.
Because what I gave you last year was a little over 2 million new cases for the whole United States.
Correct.
Right? But just for Oregon alone, 22,522 new cases.
Jeez. That's a lot of new cases.
It's a lot of new cases.
How many is that a day?
I didn't break that one down by day.
Wow.
But what I did do is I gave you by county.
Okay. Go ahead.
Usually I do give you by day. So Marion County, where we live, is 1,786 new cases this year in Marion County alone.
Jeez.
Now you live in Clackamas County. 2,432 cases in Clackamas County. Oddly enough, Washington County, which is going to be the west side, is 2,671 new cases. So a little higher on the west side than where you're at. Multnomah County, which kind of makes sense. It's the most densely populated.
Is that Portland area?
That's the Portland area.
Okay, I was going to say.
Yeah, so Multnomah County, which is Portland area.
Right? Oh, man.
I'm really curious.
4,034 new cases in Multnomah County.
Wow. Do you have the numbers of how many people are in Clackamas and how many are in Multnomah?
You can give me some homework.
Right? Say that 10 times fast.
I won't. I'm just curious because I feel like, I probably just shouldn't. I just feel like Portland is just, I don't feel like they practice
well, so
I don't know how to say this without
right.
If you look at those three counties,
censor.
If you look at those three counties, I'll bet the population is comparable.
Right.
Maybe not exactly the same, but comparable. The one thing that I think we can say is when it comes time for a business to apply for a business license, Hobby Lobby could not get a business license from Multnomah County. So they're in Clackamas County and they're in Washington County.
Right.
Chick-fil-A could not get a business license in Multnomah County.
Of course not.
So they're in Clackamas County and they're in Washington County. There is a philosophical difference.
Yes.
Is that a good way not to get censored?
Yeah.
There's a philosophical difference in Multnomah County than in these other two counties.
I would agree. Very much so. Yes.
And when it came to some of the protocols that we all had to live through a few years ago, Multnomah County was stricter than the other counties.
Yeah, very.
And I think they're paying the price for it.
Yeah. I agree. And that's when you
And I'm just dancing around a very delicate subject right now.
You're doing great.
But the fact that Multnomah County has twice as many new cases as your county.
That's alarming.
It's very interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
Especially because, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at the difference between that county and other counties and where their stance is with a lot of things.
A lot of issues.
They're pretty blue over there. Let's put it that way.
Yep.
And so they're for the pharmaceutical companies. They're for, and just, I don't feel, I'm just going to.
I know, right?
Well, I'll shift gears and I'll give you a couple fun facts.
Okay.
I use the word fun lightly, but interesting facts.
Yeah.
Kentucky has the highest cancer rate of all the states. Kentucky has the highest. In fact, it's so high that Kentucky is actually known as the cancer capital of the United States.
Really?
Kentucky has been dubbed the cancer capital of the United States.
Wow. Okay. Do you have any insight on why?
That may lead into a book that I'm bringing you.
Okay.
There's some things that I want. I'm just going to leave it.
It's hard.
Well, but the one thing I think Kentucky does have, beyond any political things, is the environment.
Yes.
So you've got to go like coal mines in Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to touch on environment.
Okay.
And I have a special guest next week.
Okay.
Remember Dr. Sheree Davis?
Yeah.
She's going to come back.
Yay.
Okay.
But we're going to talk environment.
I love it.
Because she and I grew up in a part of the state, we were in Eastern Oregon, where there is a chemical weapons depot in Eastern Washington. And there was a nuclear plant in Eastern Washington, in Oregon, So environment does play out. And I think that could be the contributing factor for Kentucky.
Yeah. Okay.
The other one that's an alarming number, last year alone, 20 million new cases globally.
20 million.
20 million. 9.7 million people died
Whoa.
in the world
Isn't that just crazy?
So almost half of the people that got diagnosed passed.
And Asia is the highest country or highest continent. Asia is the highest continent for new cases. Now, we're going to venture away from political statements, but we do know where that thing started.
Okay.
I know a lot of people are probably picturing some certain pictures in their head of, environmental things that go on in China.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the scariest prediction, I think, for me, is what they're predicting is by 2050, which is 25 years from now, 35 million new cases a year globally. 35 million people in the world will be diagnosed with cancer.
Why would it increase 15 million over such a short amount of time?
Because there's no prevention messages out there.
That's frustrating.
Take your medicine.
No, don't take medicine.
So now you have an idea of why once Mickey helped us fine-tune the edges, we had to have a prototype. We had to have somebody that would blaze the way to how do we get a chapter started. And thank goodness it was Mickey, because anyone else probably would have quit. We didn't have any good protocols in place, right? She was literally that first follower that took my crazy idea. And when we figured out what wasn't working, what did work, and so now we're prepared to do our third chapter. But here's the huge vision that I have for Kickin Cancer. We're going to have 1,000 communities globally.
I love it.
There'll be 1,000 chapters, communities throughout the world. And what I do know is whatever this message is, support and education, looks different in Salem than it looks in Dallas, Texas, than it looks in Manhattan, New York, than it looks in Paris, France, than it looks in Africa. Every community is different.
Oh, yeah.
But the two key parts don't change.
No.
Support and education. And so there's my big vision of where we're going.
And I have to at least throw this in there, that if you do want to join the movement.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, say it.
Reach out to Barrett. Reach out to Amanda. Do you know people in your community that are trying to create chapters or things like that for the community? Reach out to Barrett, reach out to Amanda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in Cindy's case over in Bend, she's really into essential oils. Her mother had to go all the way to Ecuador, and Cindy will be a guest on our show at some point in the future. But she said, I don't want to have people go all the way to Ecuador to find a good solution.
Yeah.
So I said, well, then start your community in Bend with the education piece. Well, she's now rallying other people that have other modalities, and we're going to start Bend out with an entire wellness message.
That's awesome.
Holistic ways of living.
Yes.
Yeah.
Real life.
Yeah.
So with the holistic ways of living, I found a new book, and we're going to start talking about this one.
Okay. Have you dove into it yet? Obviously.
I started.
Yes.
So the book is called Anti-Cancer, A New Way of Life.
Okay.
And I'll show it to the camera. It's written by Dr. David Schreiber. I think is how you say his last name.
I've heard that.
Have you heard his name before?
Yes, I have.
So he is an MD, and
I got to go look it up because I know I've seen that somewhere on a podcast or something.
So and on the front of it says, all of us have cancer cells in our bodies, but not all of us will develop cancer. And so I thought during this last 10 or 15 minutes, I'd give you some of the things that he's saying in here.
Yeah.
And we're going to dive deeper into this book over the course of the next year.
Perfect.
But he said that he was diagnosed for the first time in 1992. I received conventional treatment. Now, once again, he's a doctor. So he's an MD and he's a PhD, and he was diagnosed with cancer. He got conventional treatment, and the cancer went into remission, but I relapsed after that. Then I decided to learn everything I could to help my body defend itself against the illness. As a physician, established researcher, and former director of the Center for Integrative Medicine. Do you know what integrative medicine is?
No.
Prevention.
Okay.
So within their world, they call integrative medicine is all of the preventive stuff.
Okay.
So he was the director of the Center for Integrative Medicine at the University of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
That was his background, and he still got cancer.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? He said, I had access to invaluable information about natural approaches to prevent or help treat cancer. I've kept cancer at bay for 7 years now.
Wow.
In this book, I'd like to tell you stories, scientific and personal, behind what I learned. Now, here's what I find really intriguing, and I would love you ladies' thoughts, because I can already see you got thoughts in here. He says,
like itching.
I'll read this, and I want you to hear what Ashlie say. After surgery and chemotherapy for cancer, I asked my oncologist for advice. What should I do to lead a healthy life, and what precautions could I take to avoid a relapse? That was in 1992. Here's what the oncologist says. There is nothing special to do.
It's so infuriating.
He said, lead your life normally. We'll do MRI scans at regular intervals, and if the tumor comes back, we'll detect it early. That was the advice he got from his oncologist.
That is infuriating.
Right? Right.
That's scary.
And this is what's wrong with the medical industry.
Yeah.
And I'll just leave it at that.
So he goes on, he says, this is what I've learned. If we all have potential cancers lying dormant in us, and again, for those that follow this show for a while, we all have cancerous cells. Cancer is just a cell that has reproduced itself inaccurately. The DNA structure is not the same as it should be. But if you are eating those antioxidants to fight the free radicals, your body will kick those cells back out.
Yes.
If you're not, then it allows the cell to start duplicating and reproducing to become a tumor. But as we've said, by the time they can see that tumor, by the time it's big enough to see, it's been a long time in getting there. It didn't happen overnight.
Right.
Right? So he says, each of us also has a body designed to fight the process of tumor development.
Okay.
It is up to each of us to use our body's natural defenses. This is going to be our topic for the next year.
I love it.
He says the cancers that affect the West, which is, the West, for example, breast, colon, and prostate cancer are 7 to 60 times more frequent here than in Asia.
Really?
Offsets our hormones with what we consume here.
Okay.
And that just trickles down with everything else.
Yeah. Okay.
So the fact that breast, colon, and prostate cancers are between 7 and 60 times more prevalent in the Western societies than Eastern societies. He says, all research on cancers... Oh, this is the other thing he brought up, is that some people are asking whether it's genetic or whether it's environmental. Okay? Go ahead. You got a thought. Go ahead, Ashlie. You got a thought here. Go ahead.
I partially think, like you're saying, we already have these cells in our body, but look at everything that we consume here.
Yeah.
And if you look over in different countries, they have their medical fields. They look at things on a whole different level than we do holistically.
Yes.
They're not trying to push pharmaceuticals, especially over with Eastern medicine.
Yeah.
There's so many different things that people talk about here, and it's kind of taboo.
Yeah.
Until you realize it's not.
Yes. Yes.
It's really not.
So he references a study that was done to try to determine this, and they found identical twins that were separated at birth.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So if they're identical twins, then they have the same DNA structure.
Yeah.
So they should have the same illnesses that occur over time.
Right.
Except they're separated at birth, so they grew up in a different environment.
Right.
Okay? They said that they found that there was 15% higher mortality rates for the ones that grew up in an environment that didn't have a good lifestyle attached to it.
Okay.
So it's not biological.
Right. No.
It's totally environmental.
Oh, yeah.
So the last part I want to get into here is what he recommends, and this is going to be a big focus of what I want to talk about with our organization over the course of the next few years. He says, from this new perspective on the illness, follow 4 approaches. Anyone can put these into practice and engage both body and mind to create their own anti-cancer biology. 1, guard ourselves against the imbalances of our environment that have developed since 1940 and promote the current epidemic of cancer. So 1, you got to guard yourself against our environment.
Yeah.
2, adjust our diet so as to cut back on cancer promoters and include the greatest number of phytochemical components that actively fight tumors.
Yeah.
Anti-cancer food. Right?
Keeping your body at homeostasis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
3, understand, and this is really powerful. We haven't even touched on this one yet. Understanding and healing the psychological wounds that feed the biological mechanisms that work in cancer.
Yeah.
I have heard story after story about people who have gotten cancer because of their past.
Yeah.
Some traumas when they were kids that they never dealt with.
Yeah.
And that sat and festered for years and became tumors.
Yeah.
So he says you've got to heal the psychological wounds that feed the biological mechanisms.
Yes.
That's going to be a whole show at some point in the future.
I love it.
And 4, create a relationships with our bodies that stimulate the immune system and reduce the inflammation that makes tumors grow. And this whole book is dedicated to creating this new way of living.
I love it.
Welcome to the education of Kickin Cancer for the future.
And so to piggyback off of that, when we first started doing our show, I considered myself healthy. I wasn't obese. I got out and did stuff. I didn't drink. I don't smoke. Like, I was a healthy person. But I ate what I wanted to eat. And it was until you came on and we started doing this show together and I started to learn about everything that I put in my body and what matters and what doesn't. In the last year, I've really taken it more serious. Probably just even within the last 9 months, 10 months, with just being better about what I eat, truly. And I haven't been sick in a year.
Yeah.
And I truly believe it's because I'm actually focusing on what I'm putting in my body. And not only does my body feel better, but I feel better.
Right.
I love myself. I am so comfortable in my skin and my body and who I am and what I do. And I feel like it's just all for full circle with all of this stuff with your educational pieces across the board. And I wasn't somebody that had cancer, but I had a lot of stuff to work on with what I ate and just learning about it. And so your education piece is huge to me.
Thank you.
Huge.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You started valuing you.
Yes.
You started valuing you.
Put yourself first, and when you start realizing it and you actually do the research, like that doctor said, he was a doctor, but he didn't realize all of these things because you got your blindfolds on, and when you remove your blindfolds and realize that there's other things out there to help with yourself, then it's
Well,
pretty
it
powerful.
doesn't help that the people we trust,
Yes.
the oncologist that he went, so he's a doctor and he went through cancer and he trusted his oncologist to give him advice. And his oncologist is saying it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just come back in for another MRI.
Oh, it matters so much.
Well, and now there's more and more evidence. There is a video on social media right now, and I love Mickey because Mickey's the one that posted this video. So it's Kickin Cancer Washington's Facebook page, but I have shared it, and it's a guy who says that the biopsies are creating the cancers.
Oh.
Yeah, just go back and watch the video.
I can't put it on YouTube because they'll ding me for
No,
copyright.
but you can find it on Facebook.
We'll add the link in the description.
You can find it on Facebook.
Okay.
The
there we
bottom
go.
line is that the medical community is starting to push back against themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's enough
Yeah.
doctors out there going that what we're doing is not right.
No.
And you've got oncologists that are saying, eat whatever you want,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there's a guy in town right now. We honored him last month. His name's Greg Hughes, and he has a brain tumor. And he was having these massive headaches, worked at a business here in the Salem area. And he goes in, and he's got this very large golf ball-sized tumor on his brain that he's dealing with right now. And he looked at his doctors like, what do I do on my end? And they're like, do whatever you want. They did not tell him to adjust his diet.
It's sad.
And he knew, he was smart to know that cancer feeds on sugar.
Yeah.
So he has made some lifestyle changes. But if they're not going to give us the advice, then I guess it falls on our shoulders with Kickin Cancer and this radio show to tell you this is what you should be doing.
Yeah. Always do your own research. Always trust your gut. Always research.
Be your own advocate. Speak up for yourself. Don't be afraid to say, no, I don't agree.
Yes. And ask questions.
Yeah.
Ask all the questions in the world. Because if you don't, who is?
Well, the third pillar for Kickin Cancer, we talk about support and education. The third pillar, and we've only got a minute or so here left, but it does apply to that timeline, is activities. And the one thing I've loved about what we've done with Kickin Cancer is we have all these different things to do,
Yes.
right? We do golf tournaments. We're doing some stuff with the Salem Capitals. We're actually going to be live in the Armory in a couple weeks with Jason Conrad talking about
April 11th, right?
April 11th
Yeah.
is
Yes.
a Cancer West basketball game. But it was July the 17th of 2022 that Noah came to me and says, do you think we could do a disc golf tournament inside the baseball stadium?
Yes.
And we did.
Yes, you did.
We called it the Stadium Experience, and we had 88 disc golfers that showed up and played disc golf inside of the stadium, and they all got a red, white, and blue tie-dyed shirt, it said Kickin Cancer on the front of it. And so that activities part is a lot of just bringing awareness to the organization,
Yeah.
doing really fun things. And those are the 3 pillars.
Yes.
Support, educate, do activities.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for what you do.
Oh.
And huge shout out to Venti's. Dino is absolutely amazing. They have such good food. Check him out and Oddmo's. It's a win-win with whatever one you go to. They're both phenomenal.
Yep.
And we will be back next week
As the movement continues.